So I think that people over 50 next year and beyond are going to basically like take over YouTube, and they're just going to be like very successful on the platform. Now, I've honestly been thinking this for maybe like the past like 2 years. The observation is like from content that I've seen done like really well, and then also like some characteristics in my clients. Like I want to say maybe about like 75% of my clients are over 50 years old. And yeah, we're going to talk about those observations today. So the first observation is these people have like the biggest itch to scratch when it comes to like sharing on YouTube. Like they are like it's something that they've been wanting to do for a really long time. And so it's like when they actually make the jump and they actually start sharing, it's like I want to say they're like kind of unstoppable. Like that's the word that I want to use, because it's like once they get on, they're very consistent. They're very excited to share. And it's just like it's just like all this pent up like emotions and like things that they've always wanted to share, that they've just never had the platform, or they just never, I don't want to say, kind of knew how also. And so YouTube gives them a place to just basically be themselves, find community, and then like share what's basically always been on their chest for a very long time. And YouTube gives them a space to do that. And I'm also looking at my notes. And then the second thing is the sort of like retirement, sort of like legacy conversation that they're having with themselves. I feel like that kind of goes with like the first point. But basically, they're thinking, they're like, if they're not retired yet, and when I say people over 50, I'm just not thinking, I'm not talking about the people in the 50 range. I'm like talking about the 60s, 70s, sometimes up to 80-year olds that are getting on YouTube. So retirement and then legacy is like really big on their minds. And they're like, I've had experience in this thing for like the past 10, 20, 30 years. And this is my life's work. And people are always asking me questions about this and that. And like I said, they're just ready. And also thinking towards like retirement and such, they're thinking, one, what am I going to do with all this time that I have now? Or what am I going to do when I have all this time? Two, also, how can I make a difference? I've mentioned that already. And then also, they're looking into like passive income. So they've seen like the internet completely change people's lives, and they've just seen a lot of different things, right? So they're like, okay, how can I get a piece of that pie? How can I start to create a little bit of passive income for myself going into retirement, so I'm just not relying on like whatever income that they have in, whether that's like social security or like, dividends or whatever the case may be. They're still looking for passive income. So, and even if they're not like partially retired, and even if they're not like fully retired, they're wanting to be like partially retired and like still doing other things, and YouTube just happens to be one of those things that they start doing. And then another reason is their patience. So they're just like very patient with YouTube. They're very patient with the platform. The only thing they're not patient about is getting their story told, but everything else they're like completely fine. So like I always tell all my clients, I always tell them that they cannot complain to me about YouTube unless they've been posting for a week. If Unless they've been posting weekly, like every week for a year straight, I tell them, do not complain about the platform. Do not complain to me about it either. So we're gonna sit here and we're gonna work on this until you get your footing, and until it works. Because that's another thing about YouTube that a lot of people don't talk about it is it just takes it takes a long time sometimes. It takes a long time for you to like learn all these new skills. So that's another thing. They may not have the most tech skills, but they are willing to learn. And when I tell them that hey, it might take a while, they're just like, whatever. They're like, it's okay if it takes a long, not if it takes a long time, but they're okay if it takes a while. And they're just very patient with it. And they just, they post their video after their video and after their video. And they're just genuinely enjoying the process. And then the last thing that I want to sort of mention is just like their rawness and their authenticity, which I think really because of like AI and all of that, like they don't have to go on AI to help them script out a YouTube video or to create their YouTube video in like any sense, because they just naturally through lived experience have like the gift of gab. So like they can literally just sit there and talk to a camera for 10 or 20 minutes without a script, without AI, and it just comes off as very raw. It comes off very authentic, in which I think in the coming year, especially next year, like raw content is going to do like really well. So those are all of the reasons. And I've been thinking this for a while. Those are all the reasons why I think that people over 50, they are going to do really well on YouTube in the coming years and beyond. Now, let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Are you someone over 50? Do you see creators over 50 on YouTube? I see them all the time. They're always on my browse features. Even if it's not something that I would typically watch, I look at the video and it has almost like 500,000 views. So I'm like, someone's watching it. So it's just really cool to see. And yeah, so thank you for watching this week's video. And I will see you next week.